So after trying a rope rear main seal in my Holden 308 and failing, I've decided to go with neoprene conversion seal instead. I guess I am disappointed because I really did want to stick with a more traditional build, like we would have done back in the 1980s, I guess. But I couldn't get the new graphite seal to fit. And I also couldn't get hold of an ACL rope seal, as Cum Racing had recommended. They just seem to not exist anymore. This build is taking long enough, which isn't really a problem, but it feels pointless spending more weeks continuing the search for an old style rope seal or experimenting with different new rope seals. So today I am installing the Felpro neoprene conversion seal from Port City Engines. So thanks to all of you who commented on the last video where I tried to install the rope seal and failed. Plenty of you have had success with rope seals, and some of you recommended things like not soaking them in oil first, the new graphite ones, and also using different techniques like rolling it in with a larger mandrel than the first one that I used to kind of hit it in. And plenty of you have gone through exactly what I have, which is trying to get it in there but just finding it just wouldn't fit and would not let the crank breakaway torque be low enough. But I think probably most of you recommended going to the neoprene conversion seal. And nobody wants to tear their engine down again to fix a leaking rear main, me included. So the final push for me to make this decision to switch to the neoprene conversion was when I read one of the more recent comments on the last video from Trent, thanks Trent, who has had success with exactly the same seal that I'm going to switch to today. So yeah, that's the Felpro neoprene conversion seal that my friend Gary got for me, and I guess he was anticipating this rope debacle, and it's from Port City Engines, and I have heard nothing but good things about these from people who have commented on them. So let's get it in before I change my mind. So this is the seal peeled out, which didn't take much effort at all. That came out easy. You can kind of see just how much of it didn't want to squish down in there. And I think part of the problem, and like I soaked it in oil, but there's absolutely no evidence of any oil left there. I don't think it impregnates past the graphite. And it was just spraying out when I was bashing this in. But I think part of the problem with these rope seals is just how thick they are. It's like there's just too much seal and it's just not going to fit in that little groove, which is a lot narrower. I did put some sealant down in there. I'm going to have to clean that out now. All that sealant's cleaned out of there now. Where I dimpled inside that space where the seal goes, I think I have to deburr that to put this neoprene seal in, but I'll wait till I get to that step. I'm still going to keep cleaning the bottom end of this block and also try and get some more lube on this cam. I don't really want to take the cam out again. Don't think I need to. So just with all the testing that I did, timing the cam and doing piston valve clearance checks and lash on the rockers, the cam's turned over a lot with the lube that was on it when it went in. So yeah, I'm just gonna smear more on there while I get the chance. See that coating, I think, that just comes to protect the bearings before they're installed has already started coming off from the number of times the crank's been in and out. It's definitely juicier now. Okay, so reading the instructions on the pack of this Felpro seal, it says the large sealing lip must be positioned toward the front of the engine. Which side of this is the large sealing lip? So there's this side that's got a groove in it, and this side doesn't. It's kind of symmetrical when you look at it that way, like it's high. On the inside, there's a bit of a chamfer, I guess, in the shape of that. So one edge of the seal's higher than the other edge. I don't know enough about this to really understand the theory about how a seal should work. But I did watch a video by Anthony Campbell, and he had said that this side with the groove here goes in facing the engine. Oil pressure or crankcase pressure or something should push into that groove and help it actually seal more. But I'm not doing this until I know for sure which way that's got to go in. So I'll email Port City Engines, where I got this from, and see what they have to say. Righto. I didn't want to put this seal in until I knew for sure which way it went. Anthony Campbell's video was the right way. So I've done some more research. Everyone I've asked, including Performance Wholesale, Port City Engines, where the seal came from, and also a couple of Facebook groups. Everyone's confirming that the way this seal goes in is with that grooved face facing the front of the engine, and it kind of makes sense because the raised part of the lip is on this side, and that would go to the front of the engine. If it was the other way around, you can imagine that crankcase pressure, oil pressure would push on that lip and possibly squish it down and actually stop it from sealing. So having it this way means that crankcase or oil pressure is pushing inside that groove, which kind of pushes the seal up and harder onto the crank journal. I think that theory makes sense. So then I've just got to trust that this high lip of the seal, which is now it's going to be sitting like this, so that high lip is going to be probably sitting pretty close to the knurling that's on the crank. But these seals are apparently designed in a way that knurling does not need to be removed. I've read that in plenty of places, and even when you read the comments on Anthony Campbell's video, he's responding years later saying that he's still not getting any leaks from installing it this way. And you can see from his video, his crank still has the knurling on it. So that means I feel very ready to actually install this thing, finally. Most of these are really clean, but there's a couple that have got all of that build-up in there. I've got to get it all out because when those studs go in, I don't want any oil or debris or anything at the bottom of them. No chunks, just a bit of oil left in there, I guess. Honestly, I don't know what to do with this. Putting the crank in will help that. Maybe, or putting the main cap on at least will help that bed in a bit. I might actually do that, just use the main cap to kind of push them in and together and then take that off again. I also want to put some engineering blue on the seal and then put the crank in carefully. Torque down the main cap, take it out again, and make sure that there's a nice even smear of blue around the crank. This is at Gary's suggestion, I guess, just to make sure that the seal really is going to seal. Maybe that little white thing is just to protect the seal from this sharp edge here as you're kind of getting it in. That's what I was kind of playing with when I put it in the block. Yes, I did have to go double check. doesn't feel very happy going into there. It is protruding a lot. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to cut that down. I know some people have, but some people say not to. So let's see what happens if I can get this cap aligned on, and maybe that'll just push it properly down into the groove. Still got to come down a bit. Now, the seals are just touching there. There's still a bit of a gap there, but there's quite a bit of a gap here. So I'm just hoping that if I gently push the cap down, it will help the seal just seat a little bit more maybe, and I won't have to trim it, but I'm going to be super gentle because of course I don't want to damage it. That's looking all right. I think that looks all right. You can see the joint, well, that's where the cap and the block meet, and then just about 3 mil down is where the joint is in the seal, just at my fingernail. And on this side, at my fingernail, the seal, the joint in the block and the cap's there. But it's not like a perfect, like it doesn't make the whole joint completely disappear. But I don't think I'm seeing any puckering or anything, so I think that's fine. I wouldn't want to cut it. I just get so paranoid about keeping the bearings clean. So I've shell-lighted them again. Obviously reinstalled the 5th, but shell-lighted them all again. I'll put some assembly lube on them. And I'll get that engineer's blue on the seal. So Gary's loaned me this. And the idea is to do the tiniest little smear. I don't know if that's enough, but barely any apparently. It goes a long way. It just doesn't feel like enough. Same on the seal in the cap. So the blue is on the seal lip, in the cap and in the block. That's torqued down, as is the 3rd main cap. I just did those two. Just to 50 foot-pounds. The ARP studs will get torqued down to 80, but maybe 50 is enough just for this exercise. So now I'll take these off and carefully lift the crank out. I'm getting Scotty's help with that just so I don't spin it. And yeah, see if any of the blue went onto the crank. Can you see that blue? I see it pretty consistently all the way around. That's really the bottom half of the crank journal. Uninterrupted line. So I'll carefully lift the crank out and see if that's the case all the way around. There's the underside. And we've got blue contact all the way along. Is that too blurry? I don't think the GoPro zooms very well. But I can see nice consistent blue all the way around, no gaps. So I think that means the seal's going to seal properly. Well, it fits the crank anyway. Because I'm not going to obviously get anywhere near running this engine within 3 days of putting this rear main seal in, I'm going to use grease as instructed on the seal lip rather than engine oil. As usual, it's been a few weeks since I last worked on the 308. My 848 and I had a little off at a lakeside track day. Nothing too serious, but we both did need a little bit of mending. There's a video of the crash on the channel as well, if you're curious to see the both of us ploughing through some gravel. But now that the new neoprene seal is in place, and I know it's making good contact all the way around the crank journal, the crank's going in now. So I have checked main bearing clearance, I've checked rod bearing clearance, I have checked the crank end float, I've cleaned out the threads in the block where the studs are going to go in, and of course the block and the crank have already been through the machine shop. So ready to install it, should be easy. Geez, it's noisy here today. It's Bathurst Day, which makes it fun hanging out of the shed when we can watch that. Can you use too much assembly lube? It's ready to receive the crank. Crank is in, Scotty helped me, and I think we've done it a few times now, so that was good. It just went in so smoothly. We weren't even sure that we had it in right because it went in so smoothly. But there it is, crank in. So I'm just screwing all these ARP studs in. They require no thread lubricant, and they're done in hand tight, and it's pretty obvious to tell when they're in because I can just keep turning it nice and easily, and then it suddenly just reaches a point where it stops. That's the case with all of them. So why did I go with studs rather than bolts? I think it wasn't much more expensive is the main reason. And why not? This is an anaerobic sealer, which is recommended to use just on the outside edges of the recess where the rear main cap goes. I'll get that squidgied around. I want to put a bit too much on there. And a light little smear on the edges of the rope, and that's the high side on the one that's in the block, so I'll put a bit of this on the high side of the one that's in the cap. Light smear, not much at all apparently, and that cap's ready to go in. Now these caps do sit up a little because there is a recess for each of them to pop into. So before I put the nuts on the studs, I might just give them a little tap and just get them started to get down into their little recesses. So some of the ARP sealant obviously on the threads, now on the washers. Never know how much to use of this stuff. It's always a subjective term, but hopefully that's going to work. I've been a bit pedantic too in keeping every nut, bolt, washer, stud, everything in order. So that stud, that washer and that nut's only ever been in that location. But I haven't torqued them down yet at all, so it shouldn't have really mattered anyway. It's not a lot. And now some of this goes on the underside of the nuts. I haven't turned the crank because I don't want the assembly lube on the bearings to be pushed up around into the gaps before the caps are tightened down. So because this cap is between two counterweights, I didn't try to hit it down. So I'll just take this one particularly easy and just tighten the nuts down just to seat it before adding too much torque. And getting to the right torque is why using the ARP sealant is important rather than any other sealant that might give inconsistent torque results. Okay, just going to nip them up.
You see on the steering wheel a whole host of buttons here. This one says pedal. What that'll do is adjust what's called the pedal map. So essentially what it allows you to do is you can either have for a longer...
So that cap's now seated nicely into its little recess. Ready for talking. I think the factory torque for the main cap bolts on a 308 is around 60 to 70 foot-pounds, but these are ARP studs and they recommend 80. So I'm doing that in, geez, it's noisy. I'm doing that in 3 stages. I'm starting here at 40 foot-pounds. And there's no torque sequence that I'm aware of for main caps, so I'll just go around in a circle. I love this torque wrench. That's 40. I did kind of hit the crank back and forth a couple of times to set the thrust bearing. That is 60 done, and now the final at 80 foot-pounds. Just as well, I do some strength training. It's not exactly a circle I'm doing, is it? But it's consistent. There it is. So there we have it. Crank is in. And that means I can start thinking about putting wings on the pistons and installing the pistons, building the heads, some of the next steps, I guess. If you're patient with me, I'll share some progress in upcoming videos. I'll see you then.